Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
Have you ever heard the term whistling past the graveyard? That's exactly what the New York Times is doing in their recent article about China's silver economy.
Have we argued you off wearing ties? I feel
Is this
badly.
like a bit in the show now?
No, I feel like I really do owe you an apology. I'm in this apology tour mode. And I was afraid that I criticized that tie to the place where you went home and said I should probably stop. I'm sorry.
No, the ties will be back. The ties will be back. I just have to mix it up.
Okay.
You just got to mix it up.
It wasn't me.
No. You're good. You're perfectly fine. But I do feel like this is becoming a bit in the like story time clothing
I'm good.
commentary.
I'm good. Well, we're visual, right?
Yes.
You went from the tie look to the Fidel Castro look.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
All right, so
yeah,
here's the question. Anybody familiar with the term whistling past the graveyard? It's like, is that too old a colloquialism or a term?
I'm familiar with it.
I don't know where it came from. It does sound rather like Dickens.
Let's see if we can find it.
I'm guessing it's been around a long time. But the idea, of course, is attempting to feign frivolity or joy or whatever in the midst of grave danger or in the midst of impending doom or whatever it might be. I would definitely title this New York Times article, subtitle it, "Whistling Past the Graveyard." China's silver economy is thriving as birth rate plunges. This is the way the New York Times reports this. And I got to tell you, we got to show the picture because the picture, is this like not the weirdest picture you have ever seen?
What is happening there is my question. Like, what is going on?
I was reading this article and Caleb was looking over my shoulder, my son, and he was like, "Oh, is that a music group? Who's that?" He said, "Is that a boy band?"
Yes,
he didn't know.
Jonah's got to get this picture.
He thought that was BTS or something.
It's crazy. Yeah, this is a September 17th article. So as you're looking back across this video, the New York Times put this out, and this is an art. So I think the most significant cover-up being conducted today by the corporate media globally is what's happening in China in population and the future of China. I think it's the biggest cover-up. It's a bigger cover-up than the fact that no one knows what Joe Biden is doing today. And he's the president of the United States. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows how he is. Nobody knows. And the person who's supposed to be one heartbeat away from the presidency is out trying to secure the office.
Well, the last time we saw Joe Biden, he was putting a Trump hat on. So, that's the latest we've seen from him.
Yeah.
Yes. Right? I mean, that's the last I saw.
Did you have that on your election 2024 bingo card?
No, I think we've all torn up the bingo cards at this point and thrown them out the window.
Okay, so it's whistling past the graveyard is the theme for the cover-up that's happening from the global media. It's everybody. It is everybody across the board. The story that's being covered up is this. China adopted a generation ago a one-child-only policy, and they required anyone who got pregnant with a second child to abort the child, or there were severe penalties. And I'm not suggesting that they threw persons into the gulag if they had a second child. I'm not suggesting they came and they killed the second child. All we know is that the penalties were so grave that they worked.
Oh, yeah.
You were not permitted a second child.
Right. You were not permitted a second child. And in a very highly authoritarian culture, they managed to enforce that with amazing precision on the population. That's point one. That happened. People forget all about that. That was real, and it's been for an entire generation. We're talking 40, 50 years here.
And I know many in the United States, we feel that we are tracked and watched, and Big Brother is looking over our shoulder, which in many cases, not denying that fact.
It's growing.
But in China, that really happens with social credit scores, with the ability to have children, with the way you are monitored and watched over. It's on steroids.
So you got a situation where that policy has been in effect for a generation. So what's the net result of that policy? Well, let's just talk about it theoretically. There's another article. I don't have it in front of me, and it's probably irresponsible to quote it because we've all looked at it here. We've talked about it. The person who they assigned to do this policy, remember, was someone in their scientific laboratories that was actually in rocket research. And this particular scientist
literally had a rocket scientist
do
the birth rate policy.
They've confessed this. This is all open confession in major American media sources.
We did a Public Square broadcast on this. If people want to go back and look and find the Public Square broadcast.
Please do. And it's a longer format broadcast and it's more in detail. And it showed that the rocket scientist he built the algorithms, he put it all together, and they bought it. And now they all know he was dead wrong.
He was wrong. Yeah, the math was wrong.
So does it take a rocket scientist to do this math? Let's figure this out. You have a population, and you're going to permit 2 people to have 1 person to replace them. Yeah. Which number seems larger to you?
Oh,
okay.
You want to laugh, but it's so sad.
But it gets worse.
Yeah.
Because then you haven't calculated your death rate. How many people are dying? What's the aging demographics of your population? Yeah. So what you end up with in 1 generation is a situation where you have tipped the mathematical algorithm
exponentially.
In reverse. Thank you.
Well, and the interesting thing from that piece, I remember them saying the thing they didn't account for was human agency and human will. So even the math was bad enough, but they also didn't account for human behavior, and that's why you all voted me down. I wanted the title of that show to be "Sex Isn't Rocket Science," but people, I got voted down on it.
Should have.
That was great.
Can we change the title?
Can we make that the title of this show?
And then let's do the next Public Square, and we'll do it also. We'll go Whistling Past the Grave, and then we'll do "Sex Isn't Rocket Science."
Yes.
Okay. So. Here we go. This is the situation, and it's happened in a generation. Now, there's other factors that are we could add on to the formula, but I think everybody gets it. This is where China's at. So, China, by its own admission, China has acknowledged that within, I think it's like 40 or 50 years, they put a date out, that their population will be 70% at best of what it is today.
That's brutal.
Their own undoing. They're undoing their own country.
And it's going down like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
That's crashing.
Well, because I don't think they envisioned the fact that people eventually would fall into that policy of 1 child, and now some are choosing to have 1 child or less.
Well, you can't ramp it back up.
Yeah.
People don't just do what the government says. I mean, unless you put a gun to their head, which they basically did for a generation. They've broken the will and the spirit and the desire.
Yes.
Now people that do have multiple kids are looked at kind of weird because you built it into the culture for 50 some years. And so you just can't turn it on like a spigot, you know?
Thanks for stopping by at 1850 Main Street. We're glad you're here. Do you want to learn more about what is really going on behind the scenes in public policy? Tune in to the Public Square on over 200 radio stations coast to coast. Or download the free Public Square mobile app from your app store. Just look for the lamppost. Find out what America is really talking about at thepublicsquare.com.
So the 1 children that have come up in that process aren't even interested in having any children.
Right.
They literally broke the baby.
Yeah.
And in it, they've broken their own country. No one is reporting this. So here's a report from the New York Times. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is how they report it.
This is how
in the
they
New York
report
Times.
it.
It's in there, but you kind of have to skip through some stuff.
Read through the lines.
Here's radio and video air quotes. China's silver economy is thriving as birth rate plunges. The shrinking population poses threats to growth, but has opened opportunity for businesses that serve seniors.
Examples, please.
Examples, please. Where people that used to be school teachers, grade school teachers, have now transitioned to doing dance classes and other things.
Ballroom dancing for old people.
The silver generation.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
But the fact that you can't keep a daycare or a kindergarten open is the problem.
There's no need for that because you don't have enough young people.
Right.
But you find an excuse or you have the willingness to say, wait a minute, these people are going to go year round. We can do ballroom dancing.
Mm-hmm.
There's an excess amount of older folks, not younger folks. What type of culture is going to be prevalent 50 years from now? If you're talking now that you have a population of older folks and you don't have the young folks to even come close to replacing.
Another example, dairy companies that used to produce formula for children are now producing formula for the elderly, for seniors, kind of like Ensure type shakes or things like that. An entire company closed down in Ireland because of this, so this is having global implications as well.
It's going to have global implications as well when it comes to the exports of Chinese goods in the years to come because of the workers that aren't going to be around.
Sidebar, just a little brief bit of levity as we talk about something terrible. There's a lot of pictures and even video embedded into this New York Times article. The seniors in China look amazing, by the way. They look young. These people look amazing. So I don't know. That's just a little compliment to the Chinese here. This is their elderly.
So we move from diaper production for children to
still diaper production
for seniors. And somehow we say, this is the silver lining. It's a silver economy. Okay, so let's just add a little bit of rocket science to this and ask the question, okay, can we just kind of play that out 30 years past? What you basically have is there's nobody left who needs the diapers or the formula for adults or the dance class because they're all dead.
Yeah, there's a quote in this piece that talks about having these classes for the elderly. It says, it has a better future than kindergarten. There are more and more elderly people and fewer children. That runs out. Yeah. I don't think future means what you think it means.
And this is the New York Times. This is the nation of China. This is a rocket scientist. I'm going to submit to you that there is a biblical passage in the book of Proverbs that says there is a way that seems right unto a man, but the way therein is death. The other thing is common sense seems to be evaporating from the planet. It certainly has evaporated from the global media. It certainly evaporated from the New York Times and the Washington Post and all of these folks that are covering up the greatest threat, the true threat, to the world population. Now you say, well, good news is we live in America. We're in great shape. Nuh-uh.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah, we need to check out our birth rate.
We didn't even have a one-child policy. We're just doing it to ourselves.
Yeah. So we've been working on a publication that's now going to press, and it will be available very soon. It's a fact book called Abortion in America. Now, lest you jump to a conclusion based on the title.
It's also affectionately known around this office as the Life Book.
Yeah. It's a fact book. There's the title. In reality, it is a life book. Well, it represents over 1 year of research attempting to present the facts of what's actually happening in America in regards to abortion after Dobbs. And there's a lot of very interesting conclusions. But before I don't want to get buried in the minutia of this, except to tell people it's coming, except to say that the end of the fact book calls this global question.
It's a very good piece. We've all read through it, and you've been working around the clock. Anna has been working around the clock in our shop. Everybody's been adding, details and stuff. This might be one of the best pieces that we've produced, I think.
I agree. And as an organization that's been involved in the pro-life camps for over 40 years, I will say, as we did the research, some of the stats jumped at me and were surprising to me. Some of them were eye-opening. I was wrong.
We've had that response from everyone that's read it. And what's interesting about this particular work is none of the data that's conducted here has been culled from or drawn from, quote, pro-life sources.
No.
The idea isn't that this is not a propaganda piece. It's not even an advocacy piece.
I don't even think there's really any commentary in this piece.
It's a fact book that shows the research and tries to explain the research in common language we can all understand. And it takes us places that people wouldn't realize. So first off, the question is back to China and the American birth rate. the American birth rate has been below replacement level regularly since 1970 in America, but especially in the last 20 years, it has been consistently below. And it now is at 1.6 children per childbearing necessity, if you will, in regards to X number of women.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, Alan, China, they were forced to do this. We've done it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We've made this decision, whether consciously or not, we've done it to ourselves.
Now, and there might be there's many reasons for that. You know, the costs of housing has gone up, tax bills have gone up. You know, there are many reasons why this could happen. On that note, can I go here? We'll grab a book off the library shelf. This is C.S. Lewis's Abolition of Man. I wanted to see if he has an appendix in this where he talks about natural law, which is the law that God has written on every human heart. And so he goes through the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, and the ancient Chinese wisdom literature to see, and I wanted to see, what does it say? Does it say anything about kids? It actually does. The problem is the Chinese forgot their own ancient wisdom on this. The master said, respect the young. This is from Analects of Confucius. This is right here in C.S. Lewis's The Abolition of Man. The master said, respect Confucius, or they're speaking about him, respect the young. So I wanted to see if there were any other places Confucius talked about kids. There are. I'll just read quick ones. A happy union with wife and child is like the music of lutes and harps. The most beautiful sight in the world is a little child going confidently down the road of life after you have shown him the way. And then this one. If your plan is for 1 year, plant rice. If your plan is for 10 years, plant trees. If your plan is for 100 years, educate children. But of course, this presupposes you have children to educate.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.